Dr. Amanda Brooks stared at the massive holographic display, her purple-tinted hands trembling, as she adjusted the sensitivity controls for the third time. The reading couldn't be right. Earth's electromagnetic signature had been a constant in the galaxy for over 3 centuries, a chaotic symphony of radio waves, digital broadcasts, and what most species considered noise pollution. Now, there was nothing. "Run the diagnostic again," she ordered the station's AI, her voice steady, despite the growing unease in her chest. Around her, the other xenoanthropologists at the Galactic Council's monitoring station were celebrating. Their relief was palpable. After all, they'd spent decades filtering through humanity's endless broadcasts just to find anything of scientific value. The AI's response came back immediately. Diagnostic complete. All systems functioning within normal parameters. Earth's electromagnetic emissions have decreased by 99.97% over the past solar rotation. Amanda pulled up historical data, her 4 eyes scanning multiple screens simultaneously. The change wasn't gradual. It was as if someone had simply flipped a switch. The planet's infrastructure remained intact, visible even through their long-range sensors, but the constant stream of signals had simply stopped. Dr. Brooks, a junior analyst, fresh from the academy, approached her station. "The Council is requesting your preliminary report. They're calling it a sign of human advancement, finally learning to control their information pollution." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she pulled up her personal research files, decades of studying human military history that her colleagues had dismissed as a waste of time. There it was, a pattern she documented but never truly understood until now. The Battle of Midway, Operation Desert Storm, the Ghost Fleet Offensive. Every major human victory had been preceded by a period of communication silence. "Get me a direct line to the Council," she said, her secondary hearts beginning to race. "Now." "But the celebration." "Now," she barked, causing several nearby analysts to jump. As the junior analyst scurried away, Amanda began compiling her data. The Council needed to understand. This wasn't progress. This was preparation. The main screen flickered to life, showing the gathered representatives of the galaxy's most powerful species. Their attitudes ranged from amused to mildly interested. None of them showed the fear they should be feeling. Dr. Brooks, High Counselor Vithrix's translator, conveyed his bored tone perfectly. "We understand you have concerns about Earth's recent development. With all due respect, High Counselor, this isn't development. This is a warning sign." She began transmitting her research. In every major conflict in human history, the side that achieved strategic surprise first went silent. They didn't just reduce communications, they created a false picture of normal activity while masking their true operations. Dr. Brooks, another counselor, cut in. "These are the same humans who still use combustion engines in their personal vehicles, who broadcast their entertainment across the entire electromagnetic spectrum without encryption." "Whoa!" An alert cut through the chamber, its urgent tone silencing all conversation. Amanda's blood ran cold as she read the incoming data. "Energy spike detected in Sol system," the AI announced. "Signature does not match any known technology." Similar signatures now appearing at multiple points throughout the system. The council chamber erupted in confused discussions, but Amanda wasn't listening. She was looking at a secondary alert that had just appeared on her private screen. The last automated probe they'd sent to monitor Earth had gone silent, just like the 3 before it. But this time, it had managed to transmit a final image. The picture was grainy, taken from high orbit, but clear enough to see what the humans had been building. The structure wasn't like anything in any known engineering database, and it was massive enough to be seen from space. "High Counselor," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos, "I suggest we move this discussion to a secure chamber. Now." As the council members began filing out, Amanda looked back at the image from the probe. She couldn't help but wonder if the galaxy had spent so long laughing at humanity's noise that they'd failed to notice the purpose behind the chaos. And now that the noise had stopped, she feared they were about to learn exactly what humanity had been hiding behind it. Agent Jack Morrison had seen enough classified files to know when something was wrong. The corruption in Earth's historical records wasn't random. It was too perfect, too systematic. He'd been staring at his quantum terminal for 20 hours straight, his enhanced eyes burning from the strain of analyzing data patterns that shouldn't exist. "Tell me again what you found," Dr. Amanda Brooks said, her hologram flickering slightly in the dimly lit office of the Council's Intelligence Division. She'd been the only one to take his concerns seriously. "It's not what I found," Jack replied, running his hand through his graying hair. "It's what I can't find. Every major technological breakthrough from Earth in the past century has perfect documentation. Too perfect." He pulled up a series of files, each showing human scientific advances that the Council had documented. Look at the development of their fusion technology. Every failure, every success, all perfectly archived. But the original data, it's like someone knew exactly what we'd want to see. Amanda's multiple eyes narrowed. "You think they've been feeding us false information?" "I think we've been watching a play," Jack said, standing to pace the room. "Yesterday, I found something in a corrupted file fragment. In 2047, a human research station detected our first observation probe. They should have reported it, but there's no record in any official channel." The implications hung heavy in the air. If humans had known, they were being watched. A soft chime interrupted their thoughts. Jack's personal AI assistant, an illegal modification he never reported, had completed its analysis of Earth's broadcasting history. "Sir," the AI's voice was barely a whisper, "I found a pattern in the human entertainment broadcasts. The corruption isn't just in scientific data, they're popular media. It's been engineered." Jack and Amanda exchanged glances. "Show us," they said in unison. The air filled with data streams, movies, television shows, radio broadcasts. The AI highlighted specific patterns, themes that repeated across decades. Stories of humans struggling with basic technology, making obvious mistakes, celebrating minor achievements. They created a narrative. Amanda breathed, her scientific mind racing, to catch up with the implications. "They made themselves look harmless," Jack finished. "Every piece of information we have about Earth has been carefully crafted to make them appear technologically inferior, socially chaotic, and strategically disorganized." New alerts began flooding his terminal. The energy signatures Dr. Brooks had reported were multiplying across the Sol system. But now, they were changing, forming patterns that defied known physics. "Jack," Amanda's voice had gone quiet, "remember those structure images I sent you? Look at this." She transmitted a new series of pictures, taken just hours ago by the last functioning long-range scanner. The massive structures they'd spotted earlier weren't individual buildings. They were parts of something larger, something that was only now becoming visible as the pieces aligned. "That's impossible," Jack muttered, his enhanced vision processing the scale of what he was seeing. The energy requirements alone would be. He stopped, a terrible thought striking him. Racing to his terminal, he pulled up Earth's power consumption records for the past century. The numbers had always seemed inefficient, wasteful even, unless they weren't actually using all that energy for what they claimed. "Dr. Brooks," he said, his voice strange even to his own ears, "I need you to look at something. These power signatures we dismissed as waste energy from their cities. Compare them to the new energy patterns we're seeing now." Amanda's gasp told him she'd seen it too. The patterns matched perfectly. "They've been testing these systems for decades," she said. "Right in front of us. All that wasted energy was powering something we couldn't see, Jack finished. Something they hid behind all the noise and chaos. He started gathering his data cores. We need to get this to the council. Now. As they rushed to prepare their report, Jack's AI flagged one last detail. A simple communications broadcast from Earth that had been repeating for the past hour, hidden under layers of seeming static. The message was short, and once decoded, chillingly clear. We know you're watching. We've always known. And now, we're ready. Commander Emily Winters stood in the Lunar Command Center, her lips curving into a slight smile, as another alien probe winked out of existence. The massive holographic display showed the solar system in perfect detail, each probe appearing as a small red dot before disappearing into the quantum detection grid that humanity had hidden in their primitive satellite network. That's the 7th one today, Lieutenant Ryan Cooper reported from his station. They're getting desperate. This batch came in using some kind of new stealth technology. Emily nodded, her eyes fixed on the display. Record everything about their approach vectors and technology. Even their attempts at hiding tell us something about their capabilities. The command center was a marvel of engineering, though none of their alien observers would have recognized it as such. From the outside, it appeared to be a simple mining operation, one of dozens that dotted the lunar surface. The true facility extended 20 levels below the regolith, housing the heart of humanity's solar defense network. A new alert flashed across the main screen. Commander, the base's AI announced, we're detecting multiple capital ship signatures at the edge of the system. The Galactic Council is mobilizing their deep space fleet. Emily walked to the central platform, her movements deliberate and calm. Around her, the command staff continued their work with professional precision. This wasn't an emergency. It was the moment they'd spent generations preparing for. Show me the fleet composition, she ordered. The display shifted, revealing dozens of massive vessels moving into formation. Their energy signatures were impressive, at least by the standards of what the council thought was possible. Ma'am, Ryan called out, his voice tight with excitement. Dr. Rodriguez's team just reported in. The quantum manifold is ready for full activation. They're just waiting for your command. Emily allowed herself another small smile. The council's arrogance had always been their greatest weakness. They'd watched humanity for so long, so certain in their technological superiority, that they'd never questioned why Earth's development followed such a predictable pattern. They'd never wondered why every human breakthrough seemed to follow their own historical development path. Send word to all stations, she commanded. Initialize final sequence. It's time to show them what we've really been building. Across the solar system, massive structures that had been dismissed as clumsy human engineering began to shift. The quantum grid, hidden within the inefficient satellite network, pulsed with energy that their observers had never been able to detect. Message from Earth Command, the AI announced. They're tracking panic signals from 17 different alien species. 3 have already begun evacuating their border worlds. Emily stepped closer to the display, watching as the council fleet drew nearer. They were moving with what they thought was overwhelming force, unaware that they were about to learn the true meaning of power. Commander, Ryan's voice was quieter now. Personal message from your father. He says your grandfather would be proud. That all those years of hiding, of playing the primitive species, they were worth it. Emily thought about her grandfather, one of the first to realize they were being watched, who had helped design the greatest deception in human history. 3 generations of her family had lived the lie, helping to create the image of humanity that the galaxy expected to see. Send the signal to Earth Command, she said finally. Tell them Commander Winters reports Operation Looking Glass is complete. All systems are ready for the reveal. As her orders were relayed, Emily watched the Council fleet's approach. In a few hours, they would learn the truth. They would discover that every probe they'd lost, Every bit of technology they thought they'd hidden from human detection had been carefully documented and studied. And then they would learn why the galaxy's noisiest species had finally chosen to fall silent. "Send one last message to the approaching fleet," she added, her voice carrying the weight of generations of preparation. "Tell them, welcome to Sol System. You've been expected." Dr. Marcus Rodriguez stood before the Galactic Council, his presentation ready. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major species, their agitation evident in their various biological signs of stress. Behind him, a holographic display showed the Council fleet, now frozen in space by forces they couldn't comprehend. "Distinguished members of the Council," he began, his voice steady and almost gentle. "For centuries, you've watched us stumble through space travel. You've documented our failures, cataloged our mistakes, and classified us as a promising but primitive species." He paused, looking around the chamber. "Today, I'm going to show you why that was exactly what we wanted." With a simple gesture, he changed the display. The image showed a failed human fusion experiment from 2045, one that the Council had thoroughly documented. "This experiment," he continued, "wasn't a failure. It was a successful test of quantum field manipulation, disguised as a fusion accident. While you watched us struggle with basic fusion technology, we were actually learning to rewrite the laws of physics." Murmurs of disbelief filled the chamber. A Sarlaxian representative rose, their crystalline form shimmering with agitation. "Impossible. Our sensors would have detected." "Your sensors," Marcus interrupted politely, "were designed to detect what you thought was possible. We've had quantum field technology for 50 years. Every failed experiment you documented was actually testing a different aspect of reality manipulation." He changed the display again, this time showing a series of human space stations that had been under construction. With another gesture, the image shifted, revealing their true nature. They were parts of a vast quantum network that spanned the entire solar system. "While you watched us build clumsy space stations," he said, "we were actually constructing a network that could manipulate space-time itself. Those inefficient power signatures you detected, they were powering technology you hadn't even dreamed of yet." The High Counselor leaned forward, their multiple eyes fixed on Marcus. "Why? Why this deception?" Marcus's expression softened slightly. "Because we found something in your historical records, something you tried very hard to hide." He changed the display one final time, showing a list of extinct civilizations, 17 species, all of whom developed quantum technology too quickly for your comfort, all of whom suffered tragic accidents before they could challenge your dominion. The chamber erupted in chaos. Marcus waited patiently until a High Counselor restored order. "So we played a role," he continued, "the role of an entertaining, slightly primitive species that was no threat to anyone. We broadcast our entertainment across space, made our mistakes public, and let you think you were watching our every move." He stepped closer to the Council platform. "But while you watched our public face, we were building something unprecedented. A unified human civilization with technology that makes your most advanced systems look like children's toys." To demonstrate, he lifted his hand. Above the chamber, space itself seemed to fold. Through the opening, they could see Earth, despite the fact that they were thousands of light years away. "We could have used this power for conquest," Marcus said quietly. "We could have simply taken control. But instead, we're here to offer you a choice that those 17 species never got." The High Counselor's voice was barely audible. "What choice?" "Help us create a better galaxy," Marcus replied. "One where young species are protected and nurtured, not destroyed out of fear. Where technology is used to uplift, not control." He smiled, but there was steel behind it. "Or resist, and learn why we spent so long hiding our true nature." The chamber was silent now, every being present understanding the magnitude of the moment. Humanity hadn't just caught up to them. They had surpassed them so completely that the gap was almost incomprehensible. The choice, Marcus concluded, is yours. But choose carefully. The galaxy's future depends on it. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the HSS Revelation, watching as reality twisted around her fleet. The quantum drives hummed with power that the galaxy had deemed impossible, preparing to execute a maneuver that would shatter the Council's understanding of physics. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain David Turner announced from his station. "Quantum synchronization at 100%. The fleet is prepared for simultaneous manifestation." Sarah nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. 12 galactic capitals, each protected by the most powerful defense fleets in known space. In moments, they would learn just how inadequate those defenses were. "Send the final warning to all command staff," she ordered. "Remind them, this is a demonstration, not a battle. No return fire unless absolutely necessary." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, each member knowing their role in this carefully choreographed show of force. Years of training, generations of preparation, had led to this moment. "Signal from Earth Command," the ship's AI reported. "Dr. Rodriguez's presentation to the Council is complete. They're still in shock, but some members are already calling for military action." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Perfect timing, then. Begin the operation." Space folded around the Revelation and her sister ships. In an instant, reality itself seemed to stutter, and the human fleet existed in 12 places simultaneously. Each capital world found themselves facing a force that simply shouldn't exist. The reaction was immediate and predictable. Defense fleets opened fire, their most powerful weapons converging on the human ships. The energy output would have been enough to shatter small moons. It washed over the human vessels without effect. "Record everything," Sarah commanded. "Let them see that their best weapons mean nothing. Let them understand what they're facing." On her display, she could see the panic spreading through the alien fleets. Their weapons, their shields, their very understanding of physics, all were being proven obsolete in real time. "Open a channel to all capitals," she ordered. "Let's give them the message they've been afraid of hearing for centuries." The communications officer nodded, and Sarah straightened in her command chair. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of human history. "To all galactic nations," she began, "this is Admiral Sarah Mitchell of the Human Space Fleet. You've watched us for centuries, documenting our progress, measuring our worth. You've seen what you thought was the full extent of human capability." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You were wrong. We've known about your observation since before your first probe entered our system. We know about the 17 species you've destroyed out of fear. We know everything." On her display, she could see the defensive lines breaking, ships attempting to retreat from what they now realized was an overwhelming force. "Your weapons cannot harm us," she continued. "Your defenses cannot stop us. We could have destroyed you at any time in the past 50 years. Instead, we chose to wait, to build an ironclad case, to give you a chance to face justice rather than extinction." The bridge was silent, every human present feeling the weight of this historical moment. "Your council has been presented with our terms. Now you will see our capabilities. The age of unchecked council power is over. The era of human protection begins today." She nodded to her communications officer. "Send the data packet." Across 12 star systems, the most heavily encrypted databases began to open, their security failing against human quantum technology. The evidence of council atrocities, carefully gathered over centuries, became public knowledge in an instant. "We'll remain in position until your governments acknowledge receipt," Sarah concluded. "Remember, what you're seeing is only a fraction of our true capability." Choose your next actions carefully. As the message ended, Sarah watched the panic spread across the galaxy's power centers. The message was clear. Humanity had not only caught up, they had been ahead all along, waiting for the perfect moment to step out of the shadows. And now that shadow was gone, replaced by a power that made the Council's greatest weapons look like children's toys. Lieutenant James Cooper had never seen a room full of more powerful or more terrified beings in his life. The Council's emergency chamber was packed with representatives from every major species, all watching as he methodically laid out humanity's case against them. "Let's begin with the Xylaxians," he said, his voice steady, as the holographic display showed a beautiful garden world. Population of 8 billion. Developed quantum computing in 2157. Destroyed by a random asteroid impact 3 months later. The Xylaxian representatives' crystalline form dimmed noticeably. They had always prided themselves on successfully hiding their role in that extinction event. "What you didn't know," James continued, changing the display, "was that we had already established a quantum observer network. We saw your ships redirect that asteroid. We recorded everything." He moved through the evidence with mechanical precision. Each extinction event was paired with irrefutable proof of Council involvement, sensor logs, communication records, even personal messages between Council members discussing their plans. "The Andromedans," he said, bringing up the next case, 7 billion souls. Their crime, developing faster than light travel that didn't rely on your controlled network. Their star mysteriously went nova. A High Counselor rose, their tentacles writhing in agitation. "These are serious accusations." "These are not accusations," James cut in, his voice like steel. "These are facts. Facts we've spent centuries gathering, while you thought we were barely mastering nuclear fusion." The display changed again, showing a complex network of quantum sensors that had been hidden throughout the galaxy. The Council members stared in horror as they realized the true extent of human surveillance. "Every meeting you held," James explained, "every secret communication, every hidden operation, we were there, watching, recording, building a case that would stand up to any scrutiny." He paused, letting that sink in. "You were so convinced of your superiority that you never questioned why our development so perfectly matched your expectations, why we made all the right mistakes, followed all the natural progression paths you expected." The chamber was silent now, the weight of realization crushing down on its occupants. Their centuries of careful manipulation had been turned against them. "The irony," James continued, his expression almost pitying, "is that we could have destroyed you years ago. Our quantum technology surpassed yours before you even realized we were close to developing it. But we chose a different path." He brought up one final display, a complete archive of every Council action, decision, and conspiracy for the past 500 years. "This information is now being broadcast across every communication channel in the galaxy," he announced. "Every species, every world, every colony. They're all learning the truth about their protectors." The panic in the room was palpable now. Centuries of careful control were unraveling in minutes. "But here's what they're also learning," James added, his voice softening slightly. "They're learning that humanity, the species you thought was too primitive to be a threat, chose justice over vengeance. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to fix what you broke." The main display changed one final time, showing the human fleet still holding position over 12 capital worlds. "Our terms are simple," he concluded. "Your era of unchecked power is over. You will help us establish protections for developing species. You will share your technology freely. And you will face justice for your crimes." James gathered his data cores, preparing to leave, but he had one final message. "Remember," he said, looking around the chamber, We spent centuries pretending to be less than we are. Don't make the mistake of testing our patience now that we've shown our true nature." As he walked out, the council chamber erupted in chaos. But it was an informed chaos now, tinged with the understanding that they were no longer the most powerful force in the galaxy. That title belonged to the species that had chosen to hide their power until they could use it for justice rather than revenge. Director Elizabeth Harrison walked into the council's reformation chamber, the click of her heels echoing against marble floors that had seen 10,000 years of galactic politics. Behind her, a team of human quantum engineers were already installing the new governance systems that would help reshape the galaxy. "I trust you've all had time to review our proposal," she said, addressing the assembled representatives. The past week had seen the complete dismantling of the old power structure, yet she had insisted on keeping the traditional council chamber. Some things were worth preserving. "You're proposing to share quantum technology," the Arcturian speaker said, their bioluminescent patterns showing disbelief. "The very technology you spent centuries hiding from us." Elizabeth smiled, activating the holographic display. A map of the galaxy appeared, with thousands of points of light representing developing civilizations. "We're proposing more than that," she replied. "We're proposing a complete reformation of how the galaxy handles emerging species. Every one of these lights represents a civilization that could bring something new to our community." She zoomed in on one particular system. "Take the Nexarians. According to your records, they're too aggressive to join galactic society. But we've been watching them too. Their art, their music. It's unlike anything in known space. They're not too aggressive. They're just different from what you consider acceptable." The chamber erupted in murmurs as she began highlighting system after system, each with its own unique potential that the council had planned to eliminate. "Our proposal is simple," Elizabeth continued. "We use human quantum technology to create a network of protected development zones. Each species gets the chance to grow at their own pace, without fear of extinction, because they developed in a way that makes others uncomfortable." "And who would oversee this network?" a council elder asked, their voice heavy with suspicion. Elizabeth's expression remained gentle, but her eyes were steel. "A new organization, one staffed by representatives from every species, including those you tried to destroy. Humanity will provide the technology and initial framework, but we're not here to replace one form of control with another." She gestured, and the display changed to show the quantum network already being constructed throughout the galaxy. This network doesn't just protect, it connects. It allows for safe communication and cultural exchange between species at similar development levels. It prevents the strong from preying on the weak. "And if we refuse?" someone called from the back of the chamber. "You won't," Elizabeth said simply, "because you've seen what we can do. You know we could have chosen vengeance. Instead, we're offering you a chance to be part of something better." She began walking through the chamber, making eye contact with various representatives. "We spent centuries playing the role of primitive barbarians because we needed to understand the true nature of the council. What we found was both terrible and hopeful. You've done monstrous things, yes, but you did them out of fear, not malice." The display changed again, showing the human fleet still in position over the capital worlds. "That fear ends today, not because we're forcing you, but because we're showing you a better way." Elizabeth returned to the center of the chamber. "The quantum technology we're offering isn't just about power. It's about understanding, about seeing the fundamental connections between all living things. We learned that there's something more valuable than power, the ability to help others grow." She looked around the chamber one final time. "The choice is yours. But know this, the galaxy will move forward with or without you. Humanity's silence is over, and with it, the age of fear that you created." As she finished speaking, the first signs of dawn could be seen through the chamber's ancient windows. It was Elizabeth thought. Rather poetic. A new day for the galaxy, brought about by the species that had learned to hide their light until the perfect moment to share it with everyone. Commissioner Michael Anderson stood at the observation deck of the new Galactic Protection Agency headquarters, watching as another young civilization made first contact. The quantum screens showed the meeting in perfect detail. A species of silicon-based life forms meeting their stellar neighbors for the first time, under the watchful protection of the GPA's shield network. The Varanians are adapting well to the contact protocols, Dr. Amanda Brooks said, coming to stand beside him. After all these years, she still carried herself with the same intensity that had first warned the Council about Earth's silence. They're the 23rd species to join the community this year, Michael replied, his eyes fixed on the historic moment playing out before them. And to think, the old Council would have marked them for extinction because their silicon biology destabilized the natural order. The headquarters itself was a testament to how much had changed. Built using human quantum architecture, it existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, allowing instant access from any point in the galaxy. The main hall contained representatives from over 1,000 species, including several that the old Council had marked for destruction. Latest report from the development zones, Amanda said, bringing up a new display. The Quantum Education Network is showing remarkable results. Species are advancing at their own pace, but with access to knowledge that helps them avoid the worst mistakes. Michael nodded. Remember the early days after the revelation. The galaxy had been terrified that humanity would become the new tyrants, using their superior technology to establish a different kind of control. Instead, they had done something unprecedented, created a system that truly protected and nurtured growth. Message from Earth Command, the station's AI announced. The last of the old Council's hidden weapons platforms has been dismantled. The galaxy is finally free of their dead man switches. Send word to Director Harrison, Michael ordered. Tell her Phase 3 is complete. We can begin the full implementation of the cultural exchange program. A soft chime indicated another arrival. A holographic image of one of the former council elders appeared, their once proud form now humbled by understanding rather than force. Commissioner Anderson. The elder said, the Rehabilitation Committee has finished its review. The last of the old guard has accepted the new reality. They're ready to join the protection teams. Michael allowed himself a small smile. This had been the hardest part. Convincing those who had once destroyed out of fear to become protectors out of understanding. The human quantum network had helped, showing them the fundamental connections between all life forms. Dr. Brooks, he said, turning to Amanda, would you do the honors? You were the first to see what our silence meant. It's fitting that you should welcome the last of our former adversaries into the new order. Amanda stepped forward, her multiple screens showing the transformation of the galaxy over the past 5 years. Where once there had been fear and control, now there was growth and discovery. The galaxy once trembled at Earth's silence, she said, addressing the elder. They thought we were planning war, conquest, or revenge. Instead, we were building this, a future where every species can reach their full potential without fear of being destroyed for being different. The elder's hologram bowed slightly. We were wrong about humanity. We thought your silence was a prelude to death. Instead, it was the birth of something greater than any of us could have imagined. Michael turned back to the observation window, where more first contact scenes were playing out across the galaxy. Earth was still quiet now, but it was the quiet of a guardian rather than a predator. Humanity had learned to hide their power until they could use it to protect rather than destroy. Send word to all stations, he said finally. Operation Silent Guardian is complete. The new age has begun. And across the galaxy, species that had once lived in fear of discovery looked up at the stars and saw not threat, but promise. The silence that had once terrified them had become the quiet assurance that they were finally, truly safe to grow and become whatever they were meant to be.